Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about a brand new full-length studio album, a collaborative album, in fact, from Bell Witch and Aerial Ruin, entitled Stygian Bough Volume 2. That's right, there's two of them! This is the second of the ones of them, Anna. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
There's twos of them.
Wow.
Do you know when the last one came out?
No, I don't know.
5.5 years ago.
Wow.
Why did it take 5.5 years? I'm asking, why do you think it took 5.5 years?
They were busy. They were playing Minecraft.
That's a lot of Minecraft. You heard right, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. The previous Bell Witch and Aerial Ruin collab, Stygian Bough Volume 1, was released in June of 2020. 5.5 years ago. This seems to be a weird habit that Bell Witch has been getting into as of late, announcing these multi-part projects and then kind of just, not wrapping them up. Cause, there's the Clandestine Gate Part 1 thing that came out 2023. There's supposed to be 3 other parts, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been 2 years, and we ain't heard a fucking peep about them other parts. But hey, considering how beloved they are in the realms of modern-day doom metal, I suppose they can probably afford to take as much goddamn time as they like. With the success and acclaim of 2017's Mirror Reaper alone, I think your average Bell Witch fan is willing to wait as long as possible, is willing to let them cook for as long as possible. And the good news is that in the case of Stygian Bough Volume 2, this long wait has resulted in some satisfying and cathartic music. I'm going to say this right off the bat, I enjoy this substantially more than Volume 1. It absolutely has its issues, which we will get to, but overall I found it to be a more inviting, immersive, calming, and cathartic experience. It seems that Bell Witch and Aerial Ruin have kind of nailed the combination of their different respective sounds and styles. It's seamless, it's organic, it feels natural, it feels right. There are dreary and dreamy shades and textures and atmospheres all across the album. Lots of droning, melancholic guitars, lots of slow-paced, plodding rhythms, lots of almost Paul Bearer-esque vocal melodies and harmonies. Rich, folksy, rustic acoustic guitars, very robust, elegant, soulful guitars. It's a very vibe-heavy kind of album. There are plenty of nuances and complexities and things to dissect and analyze if you really want to, but I think the album honestly works at its best when you're just kind of hanging out, smoking a fucking joint, and just chilling, you know? It's a good album for that exact kind of vibe and thing. I know that bands and artists and songwriters don't really like hearing that their music is great background music, great music to have on in the background while you're doing other things. I know from what a lot of them have told me that kind of feels like a dig. It's not really a compliment, but I really do mean it as a compliment when I say that this is great music to have on in the background while I play Death Stranding and smoke weed. Truth be told, I would happily pick this album over Future's Shadow, Clandestine Gate Part 1, or whatever the fuck it's called, and even the aforementioned Mirror Reaper. Hot take, I've never been big on Mirror Reaper. I've never fully understood the hype. It's whatever. I would genuinely rather listen to this album. But I wouldn't rush to it, and that's because I take issue with the album's format and layout. The album is 57.5 minutes long, but there are 4 songs, and the shortest of those 4 songs is 11 minutes, and the longest of those songs is 19 minutes. And Bell Witch and Aerial Ruin don't really play around with pacing or rhythm at any point. It does kind of feel like a big continuous slog of dreary, dreamy, atmospheric funeral doom at times. With the first song, Waves Become the Sky, I just kind of sat here going, man, this is cool, I'm feeling the vibe, I'm feeling the energy, but I'm ready for this to kind of transform and blossom into something else. And that just never really happened. We just kind of kept plodding away on the same beats and the same guitars and these same kind of like melancholic droning guitars and vocals over and over and over again. Following number, King of the Wood, is a bit of an improvement, at least in some capacity. It is certainly a more varied cut. It does have some more fast-paced riffing and aggressive percussion in its final moments. I also do like the contrast between these more epic, soaring, kind of doomy guitars and keyboards and these more spacious, quiet, ambient sections. But damn, those sections go on for a while. God damn, I know it's Funeral Doom, but did this really need to be 15 minutes long? Hell no. You could have cut this down to 9, and you know it. Honestly, you can pretty much copy-paste everything I just said about King of the Wood, and it would apply perfectly to the Told and the Leadened. The only other thing I would add is that this song is 19 minutes long, and it does not need to be, but I do like the addition of these more regal-sounding twin guitars and parts. I think there's a lot of soul and heart behind those. I like some of the wailing dissonant guitars in the latter half as well. And I do consistently like From Dominion. It's the shortest cut on the record, which means by default, it's the most successful and cohesive. But I also do like the heavier focus on more quiet, contemplative dark folk in the very beginning. And I think it makes for a pretty strong, cathartic kind of bloom into more epic doom as more drums and guitars are introduced. Production-wise, I think this is great. Like, the way it's been mixed, mastered, and presented is honestly pretty fantastic. That's maybe the best thing about this album for me. Like, it has a very rich sound, and it's got a lot of body and color, and just the fact that it can transition so smoothly from these very dark, quiet, folksy pieces and ambient sections to these louder, more metal, more doomy, more plotting bits and sections without necessarily blowing out my fucking eardrums. Like, that's great. Overall, I'm feeling a pretty enthusiastic 3 out of 5 on this bad boy, perhaps bordering on a semi-solid 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a very vibey kind of album. Again, it's an album that I think has a lot going for it. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of depth. Simultaneous to that, however, when I personally start to like laser in and really focus on what's going on, I just kind of find myself going, damn, I wish we would speed the fuck up a little bit. I wish we would mix things up a little bit. I really don't expect there to be a Stygian Bough Volume 3, at least not any fucking goddamn time soon. Yeesh. But if Bell Witch and Aerial Ruin do decide to collaborate again in the near-ish future, there is a lot of room to grow, there is a lot of potential, and I would genuinely be interested in that, perhaps even more so than a standalone Bell Witch album at this point. Perhaps a hot take, but I'm standing by it. I don't really care. A solidly pretty enthusiastic 3 out of 5. There you have it. Yeah! What you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be, contrary to popular belief. So what do you think? Do you like this album? Do you not like this album? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Join us on Discord. Boom, more videos there. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.